Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Suranjali Seal, and like I always say, if you are somebody that loves literature and is all about literature, then this is the channel for you. Now, as promised, I'm back today with a book recommendation for you all. In my previous video, if you remember, if you've watched my other videos, and you know in my last video, I have dealt with the life and works of the Bronte sisters. So we are going to talk about the books that they have written. The Bronte sisters have left their mark in the history of English literature, and their books are considered classics of English literature that are worth reading for sure. So today I'm going to talk about really good books that have been written by the three sisters, Charlotte Bronte, Emily Bronte, and Anne Bronte. Now, I've already discussed their life, I've discussed their family tree, I've discussed their relationship, I've discussed the struggles in their life and the struggles that they endured and overcame even. I talked about that. I've talked about their life as writers. I've talked about the publishing industry, the Victorian age. So we've covered all of that in this other video. In our video today, I'm going to specifically recommend really good classics that they have written. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. So, the first book that I'm going to recommend for you all today to read is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Now, I've already talked to you about her life, right? I told you that they were 6 siblings. The eldest 2 had passed away in their childhood itself. They had an untimely death. They were children at the time. They didn't even step into adulthood. So the eldest 2 sisters had passed away, and the person who has written Jane Eyre is the 3rd sister, Charlotte Bronte. Now, Charlotte Bronte was the eldest of the surviving sisters. So you have Charlotte Bronte, then you have the youngest 2, Emily Bronte and Anne Bronte, right? Now, of course, you have their brother also, Patrick Branwell, but we're not going to talk about him here, since we're talking about the sisters specifically. So you have Charlotte. Charlotte, you know that the mother had died when they were still kids. Then the eldest 2 sisters also passed away when they were kids itself. So you understand that they had lost 3 of the most prominent female figures in the house. So Charlotte now takes on the role of the mother and sister. She's the one who acts as a friend and a motherly figure to the other siblings. So they are very closely knit family. All the siblings are close to each other. They actually fuel each other's creative energies, right? So Charlotte, just remember, she's the eldest of the surviving siblings. Now, we are going to talk about her publishing. If you can just recall from the previous video, when she published Jane Eyre, she did not use her name. Remember, I told you they used male pseudonyms. They adopted male names. Why? Because they wanted to avoid publicity, and also they took up male names because the publishing house was not as welcoming to women writers. People wouldn't take women writers seriously. So, you know, if you're a woman and then you would go and publish your works, chances are that people will not take you seriously. They would criticize you. Publishing houses would actually not want to publish your books. So they actually submitted their draft. They actually published their books under male pseudonyms. So Jane Eyre was published not under the name of Charlotte Bronte as the writer, but it was named as but her name she adopted as Currer Bell. So it was in the Victorian age, when it was first published, Jane Eyre was published as Jane Eyre, written by Currer Bell. And now, of course, we know the real name, the real identity of Currer Bell. That's that's nobody else, but it's Charlotte Bronte. So it is one of the novels that became classics of literature, and it is very, very phenomenal. So I'm going to suggest you reasons why you should be reading this book. First, it's because it's an insight into the Victorian age. Now, if you don't want to read about history, if you don't want to go and turn the pages of what happened in the Victorian era, you don't want to go and read the nitty-gritties of the Victorian age, the etiquettes, the way of life, you can always turn to literature. You can read literature and you can figure out the kind of life that these characters were living, and it'll give you an idea of the society itself. So it is all about the Victorian age. It talks about education in the Victorian age, expectations of women in the Victorian age, the kind of job opportunities that women could have had in the Victorian age, or the women could sought after. Women sought after during the Victorian age, the kind of jobs that were available for them, and the way they would actually get those jobs also is talked about in Jane Eyre. Now, a little bit about Jane Eyre before I get into all the themes and everything. Jane Eyre, okay, the character Jane Eyre, she's actually an orphan, and she has lost her parents, so her aunt and uncle take her up. She lives with her aunt and uncle. The uncle passes away, and she's left under the care of the aunt, Mrs. Reed, who's not a kind character. She sees Jane as an outsider. The children see her as an outsider, so she's never accommodated kindly within the household. So, you know, it is a struggle of that identity, finding her own identity. It is a struggle of how she finds her place within that household. But Jane is not somebody who gives up. She's resilient, she is powerful, she's opinionated right from when she is a child. She doesn't back down. Whatever life throws at her, there are many incidents that happen in her life, she stands her ground and she fights back. So Jane is not somebody who is quiet. She's a vocal character. She's a loud in the sense, not as noisy, but she stands up for herself and her beliefs, and that is Jane Eyre for you. Now, of course, after that, she's admitted into a school. Now, in the school also, there's this theme of torture. There's a theme of, religion that permeates here and there throughout the novel. I told you that the life of the writers go a long way into influencing their works, right? So the Brontes were a religious family. So you'll find religious themes talked about and dealt with in all the novels written by all the sisters. You'll find religious themes dealt with. So even in Jane Eyre, there are religious themes that are dealt with. And you have characters that some of the characters are genuine, some of them are real hypocrites. Okay, what they preach and what they follow is complete opposite. Now, Jane is one of those characters who is practical. She understands situations. She doesn't just take everything at face value. Whatever is told to her, she doesn't just accept it. She analyzes everything and she stands up for what is right. So, apart from everything else, there's the school. I told you in my previous video that the school in which the two sisters, remember the four sisters, I'll tell you, the eldest four had gone to this school. The eldest two died because of the conditions in the school. The school was in such a poor condition that the children fell sick. There was this typhus epidemic within the school, and then children started dying. Then the eldest two were removed from the school. Then they got tuberculosis, and that's how they died. So this school where they actually studied, the Bronte sisters, that they actually, except for Anne, the youngest one was still not that of age to go to school, but the four eldest one who went to this school, and Charlotte Bronte witnessed everything that had gone on in that school, and she had witnessed the death of her sisters, right? She actually depicts all of that in Jane Eyre. She has this Lowood school, is the school that she actually weaves. This is the idea of the school that she weaves. The inspiration of Lowood school in Jane Eyre comes from the real life school that they went to. So you'll understand how Victorian charity schools, how did they work? What was the condition in the school that they were sent to? So this is also another truth. Every age has its ups and downs, right? So this was the downside of the Victorian society. Then she becomes a governess. When she becomes a governess also, you'll see how there's this class distinction, class hierarchy. You will understand the opinions of the society towards a governess. She has a sense of self-respect. She doesn't let that go. There's always this sense of self-respect which she holds on to. She doesn't leave her self-respect, and that's why Jane Eyre is commendable. It is also known as one of the first feminist novels during the time, because Jane Eyre is very vocal. She does not. She's against the stereotypical ideas of the day, against the stereotypical notion of the day. She stands against it. And the most famous line, that I'm no bird and no net ensnares me. I'm not a bird and no net can trap me. I'm a free human being with an independent will, or I'm an independent human being with a free will. You understand? That is one of the, that's the quote, more or less. You can understand the idea. That's one of the famous quotes from Jane Eyre. So you see, at a time like that, society now has changed, but during that time, Victorian era, when your private sphere, public sphere, and your rules and gender roles were clearly demarcated, when your identities were clearly defined. At that time, she's saying that I'm no bird and no net ensnares me. She runs after independence. She doesn't want to be tied down. Even there's this theme of marriage where, she keeps questioning herself as to this dependency versus independence. The fact that there were no divorce laws at the time as well. There are many complications that take place in the course of this whole episode of the marriage. So, you'll see how she does not just submit to her situations. She does what is right. You know, she's not emotional, like I said, she is practical. And then she later, of course, she takes decisions for herself that culminate in the marriage and all that. You can read that on your own. So this is just an idea of what Jane Eyre is about. Now, this is more or less the plot. Now, throughout the throughout the sections of the novel, or 4 sections of the novel, no, I'm just giving a broad idea. Throughout the episodes that are happening in the novel, you'll see that there are characters who just surrender to the situations. There are characters who don't have an opinion of their own. Whatever is told to them, they just blindly accept. Okay, but Jane is not one of them. Jane sees things for what they are. Then you'll find characters who are hypocrites. What they're saying and what they are preaching, okay, they're doing the exact opposite. They expect you to do it, but they themselves don't do it, okay? So you'll have hypocrisy. Then you'll have jealousy. Of course, jealousy is also there. Then you'll have love. You'll have the treatment of love. There is a love plot in Jane Eyre, and that is also page turner. You'll like reading it. Then you also have the gothic elements. I talked about Jane Eyre in my gothic gothic book recommendation video. So Jane Eyre is a must read. Why? Because see, gothic does not mean horror, that you'll be, there'll be ghosts coming out of nowhere. No. Gothic actually means that it should incite fear, and it should be unsettling and fearful. That should be Gothic. Anything unsettling, any topic which is unsettling can be considered Gothic. So in Jane Eyre, you'll find these Gothic elements. You'll have torture, you'll have a mystery, secrets, you'll have this whole it's an estate where she's living, so there's secrets in the floors. The 3rd floor of the estate has a very big secret, and then there'll be mistaken identities. All of these things go on and add to the Gothic feel. Then you'll have, of course, in the middle of the night, something will happen, and then you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know what is the truth. All of those things are dealt with in Jane Eyre. It's a phenomenal novel. The language is, of course, very, very rich, and you will find that Jane Eyre encompasses everything. It encompasses everything Victorian. It actually reflects the Victorian society properly. It talks about the role of a governess, talks about the education system. It talks about people's opinions, the class distinction, class hierarchy in marriage. All of that is talked of in this novel. So if you're interested, then please do give it a read. It is considered a classic of English literature, and rightly so. So the next book that I'm going to recommend to you all, and which is one of my absolute favorites, is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Now, Emily Bronte, you have Charlotte Bronte, Patrick Branwell, then you have Emily Bronte, and you have Anne Bronte, right? So these are the 4 surviving siblings. Now, of course, you have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Then you have Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. It's one of the most celebrated classics of English literature. Again, I would like to repeat that that all the siblings died of tuberculosis except for Charlotte and Patrick Branwell, right? So Charlotte Bronte died because of a complication during pregnancy, but all the other sisters died because of tuberculosis, and Emily too had died because of tuberculosis, okay? So she was able to produce only one novel in her lifetime, and that is Wuthering Heights, and it itself is a classic. And she has written a book of poems in collaboration with her siblings also. She has written a number of poems which are celebrated too. She had a writing genius in her. But yeah, novels, she produced only one, and that is Wuthering Heights. Now again, Wuthering Heights, I would like to start with the Gothic elements because it permeates throughout the novel. She was somebody who loved also roaming around in the countryside. So you'll find the description of the English moors in Wuthering Heights. In her own life, she was somebody who loved animals, and so was Anne. Anne also was a lover of pets, animals. So even Emily was a lover of pets, animals, and she loved the countryside. She liked the outdoors. So you'll have vivid descriptions of the English moors in Wuthering Heights. Now, about Wuthering Heights, I'll tell you a little bit about the plot first. So it's about these 2 families. You have families at the Thrushcross Grange, and then you have Wuthering Heights, the children who live in it, and the relationship, their relationship between them in their childhood, and how the dynamics unfold and grow and break and everything, how their relationships change over time, and what are the dynamics in adulthood, because everything is messed up, okay? So by the time we come towards where the novel begins, actually, is the present day. when they're all adults, and where they're all adults, okay. And then you'll find that gradually, as we move through the story, the past is revealed to us, the past stories are revealed to us, and then we understand what led to the present day state of affairs. So that's the basic plot of Wuthering Heights. So like I said, gothic feels, okay, these gothic elements actually elevate the plotline as well. So you have the character, the protagonist himself, who is an anti-hero. He is the anti-hero who actually, or the gothic villain who appears. He's the protagonist himself. So he's not an agreeable character, but you still relate to him, and that is what a gothic hero is supposed to be like. So you're talking about a gothic hero. Then you have the description of Wuthering Heights itself. It is a mansion, it is an estate, right? So the Wuthering Heights, the whole construction of Wuthering Heights is built in such a way that it can withstand the gushes of wind. Now when you read the first description of Wuthering Heights itself, you'll understand it is symbolism, okay. They say that gushes of wind and wind keep beating against the wall of Wuthering Heights. You can hear the wind at night, okay, whistling through, and these are very heavy gushes of wind, okay, that beat against the wall of the mansion. But Wuthering Heights, that goes on to tell us that this the people living in Wuthering Heights, concerned with Wuthering Heights, the people who are associated with this person or these people from Wuthering Heights, all have a tumultuous life. It is a sad past. Wuthering Heights and the people living in it have gone through tumultuous time, turbulent time. This is the first description. When we read Wuthering Heights, you'll find symbolism there, and you'll see that it is a past which is not so colorful. It is a grey past. It is a questionable past where everybody has suffered on multiple levels, and it is a tumultuous past, you know. It is a tumultuous past, and it is signified by the wind that keeps blowing against the wall, and the wall is strong enough to still stand. That is, it has gone through so many things in life, but the wall is still standing. The Wuthering Heights is still standing. Whatever the past is, the past still has lingering today, all right? So that is the meaning of Wuthering Heights. If you read the description, you'll understand. Now, also Gothic elements, there are supernatural themes. There are supernatural elements in Gothic, in Wuthering Heights. The supernatural is dealt with. It is an eerie feeling, very, it is not about being scary. Gothic, like I said, it's not about being horror. It's supposed to be unsettling. It's supposed to incite fear in you. Any topic that incites fear in you, it's Gothic, right? So it's not about having a ghost. It is not about having a ghost. It is about inciting fear. Any topic that can incite fear in you, unsettling feelings in you, that is Gothic. So likewise, like I'm saying, there are topics of madness. There's topic of jealousy. There's topic of, for lack of a better term, for lack of a more decent term, I'm just saying there's forceful physical exertion on someone, okay. There is this theme of molestation as well. There's this theme of obsession. All of these things actually revolve around this Gothic themes, Gothic elements. It adds to the mystery of the novel, mystery of Wuthering Heights itself, and mystery of the character of the main protagonist, Heathcliff. His own character's mystery is completely heightened by all of this. So this is again Gothic elements in Wuthering Heights. The language itself is very descriptive, beautiful language. Each and every paragraph, you'll feel like marking each and every paragraph. At least that's how I felt, because the language is so pretty and so beautiful. So that's Wuthering Heights. Then there's also this story within a story. Wuthering Heights is a tale within a tale. And how, I'll tell you, when we first meet the people in Wuthering Heights, I told you it is right in the present. We're meeting present day people, and these people want to find out, this person who is there in Wuthering Heights wants to find out more about Wuthering Heights, and he comes to know from somebody else the story. Now he is telling us, the readers, that okay, this is the story of Wuthering Heights, which I heard from this person. So he heard it from somebody else, and now he's telling us, the readers, that this is the history of Wuthering Heights. So it's a story within a story. I hope you understand this. If you read the novel, if you ever pick the novel up to read it, then you'll understand it more. It's a tale within a tale. So that again is another thing in Wuthering Heights. The theme of love is dealt with. There's a love triangle also. There's class distinction, marriage. There's hereditary traits. Okay, what is hereditary rights? All of that is dealt with. There's marriage, there's class, in the sense, no, that class will always feature in Victorian novels, like I said, because it was a very integral part of the society, this class consciousness. So you'll find that in Wuthering Heights as well, likewise. So you'll have all of this. Now you have the two protagonists, you have Catherine and Heathcliff. These are the two protagonists, the female protagonist, and Heathcliff is, of course, the male protagonist or anti-hero, as he appears in Gothic literature. So, you know, you have time, the shifts in time, because the narration is going as such. Then you have the changing dynamics of the relationship over time, that is also there. And towards the end, the ending itself will make you relate to the characters even more. So you will not be able to say one character is right and the other character is wrong. You'll be able to understand each and everybody's position. So that is Wuthering Heights for you all. So it is considered a classic of English literature, and it is considered a classic for a reason. So if you think that this is one book that you would like to try out, then please do so. This is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. So we're going to talk about the youngest sister now, Anne Bronte, and she had written her first novel, Agnes Grey, and we are talking about Agnes Grey as an autobiography, or it has autobiographical traits, because most of it is actually influenced by her life. Most of it is her own life experiences. She has just changed the names of the characters. So if you want to know a little bit more about the family of the Brontes, the struggle of Anne herself, she had served as a governess in 2 places, and you'll find the exact description. She has just changed the names of the characters. You'll find the exact description of her experience in those 2 places as a governess in Agnes Grey. She talks about everything that she has gone through as a governess. You know, we think of employment, job opportunities for women. At a time like that, during the Victorian age, you had education for girls that had been attained, and now you can become a teacher or a governess. Now you would think that everything is settled, you have job opportunities now, but you know, it was very, very difficult. Today we have cars, we have locomotion, and locomotive accessibility actually is very, very easy. We have buses, transport systems, we have buses, we have taxis, of course cars are personal cars and all, I'm just leaving that out, but we have flights, we have trains, we have, this accessibility to different parts of the world also is comparatively easier today. But during that time, she became a governess and had to travel miles from home. There was no phone, no contact with the home. If you have to talk to somebody at home, you have to write a letter. That letter will take days to go and get submitted, and then after that a reply will take another few days to come back. So if somebody is happy at home or sick at home, or there's some development at home, chances are they won't get to know. If something that the governess also has is going on in her life, or something happens, nobody will get to know for days, because letters arrive late. And this travel, women were now traveling, governesses were now traveling from one place of the world to the other. Before, they were confined within the house. So that first sense of exploration, that okay, I'm going to go out, this is my new independent life, I'm going to it is scary, for a person for the first time to leave home. And she describes all of that in Agnes Grey. She talks about the problems in her house also. Like I told you, that they did not have any private source of income. So after her father's death, their house only would go to the church. So they could not maintain, they do not have like I told you simply, that they had to actually give away the house because they did not have money to actually keep it. So, those kind of things the women of the house actually took up upon themselves, that they would go out in search of employment. I told you that Charlotte had been a teacher, and in Jane Eyre also you'll find that she had served as a teacher in the school that she learnt. Here she was studying in, she was a student in, she served in that school as Jane Eyre served as a teacher there. And now Anne Bronte and Agnes Grey also, you will see that she is the one going out in search of employment to support her family. So that is incredibly independent, that is incredibly feminist in outlook. So she's going out in search of jobs, going to celebrate her she's going to celebrate her capacity, whatever she has learned in her life, and she wants to put that to use. Now that is scary. Like I said, she is traveling to unknown places. She has to deal with children who are not ideal children. children. These are children who are a menace, they're a nuisance, they're very, very troublesome, and you know, all of that she goes through with patience. Now, there's a distinction I want to make. You have Jane Eyre, who's very vocal. She is very resilient. Anne is also very resilient. Agnes Grey, she's also very resilient as a character when she's doing her job. But the difference is that Agnes, no, she understands everything, but she's not vocal. She's quiet. Comparatively, Jane is very vocal about her opinions. But Agnes Grey, she keeps it to herself. She understands everything. When she's talking to herself internally, you know, you'll see that she has a lot of insight. She has a lot of opinions, but she does not voice them out violently. She does not voice them out loudly. She has opinions, and she just does. She says all that is need to be said, and she's resilient at the hands of life. Whatever life throws at her, she actually never bows down. She takes it all in, and that makes her a stronger woman. So this is Anne Bronte. It is autobiographical, like I said, so I'm not going to mention everything. If you want to read it, then you'll get an insight into the Bronte sisters' life itself, the Victorian age, the life of a governess, the uncertainties that they overcame, and of course the feminist strands, which will make you think what women at that time had to go through and how far we've come today. So this is Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. It is the first novel. It was published around the same time as Wuthering Heights. So this is Anne Bronte's first novel. Now we're going to talk about her second novel, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. So the last novel which I am going to recommend to you today is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. It's a second novel, and it is considered to be one of the first feminist novels, and rightly so. So about this novel, I'll just give you a little bit of the summary of the plot. So you have this mysterious figure who comes to stay in Wildfell Hall. Wildfell Hall, say, it's a house, and this figure comes to stay there. So it's the tenant of Wildfell Hall. She's staying there with her son. Now, the place where they're staying, the community is closely knit. It's a small place. People know each other. It's a small place. It's a closely knit community. Everybody knows everything. If one word travels, it travels throughout the community. You know, that kind of a small place. So everybody knows everything about each other. So there are rumors. Then there are truths that are unveiled in this community. She's staying there, so all eyes are on her. This is the newcomer in the community, right? So a lot of mystery surrounds her and her persona. And at the same time, you'll figure gothic elements in that who is she, the way she dresses herself, you know, her isolation within the Wildfell Hall, you know, people wanting to know more about her, but they don't know anything for sure. Those things add to the gothic vibes, so that is there. Now you have the love interest, the theme of love. You know, I'll tell you the plot first so that you understand. This tenant has come to live in Wildfell Hall. There's another person who takes a liking towards her. There's love that grows, but for some reason she keeps pushing him away. Like, she does not accept him. Later he finds out that there's a whole history to her. There's a reason why she cannot commit, and that reason is valid even because at the time in the Victorian societies, certain rules and regulations were not as clear as they are today. So if I tell you this, I think you'll be able to understand what it is. So I'm not going to give too much away, but I'm just saying that rules were not as clear cut, as vast and wide as they are now today. Things are comparatively easier for us. We have progressed, but during that time it was still in the making. So a lot of sacrifices, a lot of people had to suffer on account of that, and the tenant of Wildfell Hall, this woman that we're talking about, is one of them. Now there's a theme of abuse, there's theme of illicit relationships, there's a paramour as well, there is jealousy, of course. It is actually a novel that actually challenged the morals of the Victorian age. The Victorian age, I told you, had very demarcated lines, boundaries, defined thing. I told you in my previous video that to define is to limit, and you know, there were definitions. A woman should be like this, a man should be like that, you should behave this way, you should wear this. So in that sense, in the community, in the society, women were always considered second to their husbands, you know, so they did not have much voice. And in this novel, you will see how she stands up for herself. I'll give a small thing only. There's a place where she actually slams the door in the face of her husband because she has had enough of the abuse, okay? And that itself, okay, was a shock to the Victorian community. because in no circumstance are you supposed to do that to your husband. But she cannot take abuse anymore, and that's why she stands up for herself. So this is just an episode, I'm saying. There are many characters, there's a whole history to it. I'm just giving you a gist, and I'm suggesting that you read this novel because you will understand what, you know, the difference between what has happened and how we're living life today and what we're going to achieve for ourselves tomorrow. You'll find the need of it, you'll find the relevance of it in literature, because in literature you have lives depicted. These are not fiction, these are fiction. It is fiction because it's a fictional story, but it's inspired by individual lives, right? It is inspired by the society in general. So you will understand how far we've come as a civilization, how far we have come as human beings, what are the weaknesses of human beings that were there during those times, and it's here even today. So Victorian society had demarcated rules, and the tenant of Wildfell Hall actually broke all of them. And she is one person who doesn't back down. She knows her priority. She has a son. She gives her all to the son. And there's also this notion of love and marriage and class, dependency, independence. You'll find it in all the works of the Bronte sisters. So I hope that this novel, you give it a try. If I just give you the plot, you'll understand what it is. So I cannot just like openly say everything, but I strongly recommend the Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Please do give it a read. This woman is unlike any other character we've met in the other books by the Brontes. She is vulnerable, but then she's not afraid. She is vulnerable, she is hopeful, but she's also resilient, and she's working towards a future to secure herself and her son a better future. And you'll understand all of the way the things are revealed to us, right? One by one, one by one, one by one. You'll understand how strong a character the Tenant of Wildfell Hall is. So that's it for today, guys. This is what I wanted to suggest for today. These are the books that I strongly recommend if you're starting out with the Bronte sisters. I again repeat that do watch my other video. You'll get to know about their life, and then it'll make their works a little bit more easier. The life in itself is very inspiring, and the works, of course, they have stood the test of time, and they'll continue to do so. So these are the book recommendations, the books that you should read by the Brontes if you're starting out with classic literature. And if you have enjoyed the video for today, don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to my channel for similar content. Until we meet again, I hope that you stay healthy and happy. See you in the next one, guys.